in like Demi prison.
Yeah. No, so I don't know. Hello.
Let us know if we're live and we're audible.
We should be. We've had to do a bit of a switch up in the setup today.
Yeah.
Because
Jake's computer shit the bed.
old Baxter finally fucking hit the bullshit.
Yeah. And we had to go to some sketchy guy's basement.
Well, I mean, you would think that there was quite a bit of computer repair stuff going around in London, just because I guess it's the city and there's a lot of people. So you'd assume there's a lot of services for people to get their PCs fixed. But there's really not. There's like a few. And so, I've gone to this fella. He seems like okay. Angie was pretty sketched out because it was in the basement in Pall Mall.
Which is like one of the poshest parts of London as well. It was really weird.
It was quite strange, but I'm hoping that it should be okay, and I'm trusting him with my with my computer. It should be fine. So we've got a temporary setup today, hence the no border, no frills.
Sorry, guys.
Just straight intro.
Straight into it. No lube. Right in.
No sexy vaporwave loop made by mysterious vaporwave artist Barry.
Jake's second alias. Well, yeah, this week, so much is going on. There seems to be a slew of celebrity cancellings occurring.
Just one after another.
One after the other. I've actually had to write a list because there's so many.
You've written a whole list.
Yeah, there's a list.
That does sound like glowy behaviour. Continue.
Here's my...
That's your first red flag of the episode. Okay. If we're at 3 red flags, I will have to report you to the FBI.
There's this motif where you think I'm an agent for some reason. Do I give agent vibes?
Maybe that's just in my sick little mind.
Hello, people in the chat as well. Hi, George and Indigo. Is that what that says?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you for coming. So yeah, these are the people that have been cancelled. So there's Lizzo. Everyone seems to have kind of forgotten that. That's how short our cultural memory is getting.
That was like 2 weeks ago, right?
It's like old. Well, probably more than that now, I think.
Oh my God.
I think more than that. So Lizzo, Ashton Kutcher, and Mila Kunis as well. Yeah. Which is a little bit more recent.
We can get into that. I know all the juicy details about that one.
Jonah Hill, which was even before Lizzo, I think.
Jonah Hill?
Yeah.
Why was Jonah Hill cancelled?
Because he was like... Apparently he told his girlfriend not to show her
posting booty pics.
Yeah, or something. And then he got cancelled for that.
He was cancelled for that? I thought everyone was on Jonah's side for that.
No.
Oh.
No, of course not.
Just the incel forums.
Yeah, literally. And then Drew Barrymore as well is another one who's joined that, which is surprised because she's like typically very unproblematic and like obviously never gets embroiled
lovely,
in
super no, everything's cool, I'm just silly Drew. But like I don't know, I've also got a good little take on Drew Barrymore's situation.
Okay, we'll get there. Jimmy Fallon as well.
Fuck Jimmy Fallon. I'm glad he's cancelled. I'm glad that he's one I'm glad, like you can give me a red flag for that, but like I'm glad Jimmy Fallon's getting like some comeuppance and he can go fuck himself.
Oprah Winfrey
again. Like, I only just found out this today that black people don't like Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, she's not favored by the blacks.
I thought Oprah Winfrey was beloved by black people.
No, so the bougie blacks love her. Like my mom, like loves Oprah.
I think this is why I think that black people like Oprah Winfrey is because your mum really loves Oprah.
Yeah. No, my mom's part of the bougie blacks, so she loves Oprah. But then otherwise, like in working class black community, she's pretty much despised and seen as like a traitor and like as somebody who's like in the Illuminati and stuff. So yeah,
just because she's super rich.
Well, I think it's because she's kind of out of touch with the community and the way that they wish she would be.
So she's like,
which typically happens to black celebrities once they become.
She's like OJ.
Yeah, pretty much. She's like the modern OJ. Who else is getting cancelled? Richard Ayoade, who's one that Americans might not know as well.
Oh yeah.
He's a famous British comedian. He's half Nigerian, half Swedish, I think.
I'm trying to think of something that they would know
Fellow
him from.
Nigerian Brit. And he's like he's just like a nerdy guy. He's like the most like metropolitan. What did you call him? You said he was the most tamed of the light skins.
He was they're coming for the most tame light skins.
Yeah.
And the most wily white skins with Russell Brand.
Oh yeah, we'll get to Russell Brand. We'll get to Russell Brand later. But yeah, Richard Ayoade, he's like, you know, this very mild-mannered, dorky British comedian. And he was on this show called The IT Crowd.
Brilliant, like, British comedy show.
Yeah.
Like, if you're looking for something to watch, especially like a new quirky
British comedies. If you like
IT
the Mighty
Crowd.
Boosh, if you like I know, like fucking Peep Show,
Sometimes
any of
I
that
forget
shit.
Ayoade is black. Yeah, I mean, there we go.
Oh my god, that's how he's like one
I
of those
mean-
people. But here's my theory. I think that the mixed kids who have white moms tend to be really white.
Mm.
And then the mixed kids who have black moms tend to be a little bit more culturally black.
Mm.
That's kind of my theory. But either way, he's just like a mild-mannered, like dorky dude. And yeah, he's on this show called The IT Crowd, which was written by this guy called Graham Linehan, who's this British comedy writer who wrote this show called Father Ted and also The IT Crowd as well.
Some
So-
bangers. Like,
Yeah.
he's batting 100, to be
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
For comedy shows, this fella's doing pretty well.
But basically, Ayoade's career is basically due to this guy's show and what he wrote. But now he's become controversial as like the face of the gender critical movement in the UK because he's like vocal about the fact that he's gender critical. But because he recently wrote a book detailing his journey from like beloved British screenwriting genius to passionately hated TERF or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Ayoade and I believe Jonathan Ross, who's another famous British comedian, wrote like a quote for the book.
Mm-hmm.
And because they did that, they are now being mercilessly cancelled.
They've been approached upon by all of the alphabet people on the internet.
Yeah, so that's like another thing that went down recently. Rujan Murphy was another one. My whole thing is like, what are they trying to distract us from? Why is there like this whole onslaught of like celebrity cancellings going on right now?
Well, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? It's clearly
It's
something
strange.
that they must be like kind of getting everyone kind of as you say, distracted from, and it's kind of hard to tell because it takes up all of the headlines, so you wouldn't really know. But I would suspect that, I don't know, maybe it's something to do with I don't know, like every now and then, like all these really worrying headlines come out about the war of Ukraine and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they've got biolabs. Oh,
Or
Alex
something
Jones
about-
said that there's going to be fucking pandemic 2.0. Yeah, XY bullies.
XL bullies also
Yeah,
is
XL
another
bullies, exactly. It's
thing
just-
that's
it's
been
just
in the
distraction
news.
bullshit.
It's just distraction after
So
distraction.
I don't know why. I don't know like if they think that everyone's really fucking stupid and that they think that there aren't any like issues that like need to actually
But not just that,
talked
Me
and
Too.
tackled
Not
with,
just that,
or-
Me Too and cancel culture, quote unquote, is back in a really big way because like it kind of sort of died down for a bit, but now it's like the thing that everyone's talking about again. And people were hoping that was like sort of a relic of 2016 and the aftermath of COVID and all of that shit.
I was gonna say COVID was definitely a big cancel time.
Yeah.
Because
Everyone was bored and at home.
if you didn't wear a mask or if you were out of your house for not a super good reason, people were upset about it.
Yeah. So during that time, canceling was still in its heat. But I think, post COVID, people were sort of hoping that it would die down.
People were going to get their senses back.
Yeah, and
back in touch with
they were going to
with the
touch
world.
grass and things were going to die down. But now it's like back again in a big way. And not only that, obviously with the Russell Brand situation that's going on, there's this it's a huge sexual assault case. And like I was shocked because like Dispatches, whenever there's a Dispatches documentary, and for those of you who don't live in the UK and who don't know about it's like television culture,
it's like a big
expose
documentary, not even series, but they would do like different documentaries on different scandalous things that were happening in the UK. Like I remember the big one that sticks in my mind when I hear Dispatches is, do you remember when they were putting horse meat in
yeah.
In some of the really cheap frozen dinners and stuff in like Iceland and shit.
Yeah.
So like Dispatches did like a whole fucking investigation into the horse meat situation.
But once I heard that Dispatches was doing a documentary on Russell Brand, I was like, holy shit, like
it must be serious.
Yeah, there must be something like kind of serious going on. And of course the allegations are like it's ultra serious that have been made. But he made a video preemptively a day or two or something before, kind of jumping out ahead.
Like, some serious allegations coming. Don't believe them, truth seekers.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, okay,
oh my god.
Like
it was. I don't know, man. Like my whole I don't know, to get the stupid.
It's quite painful to watch.
Yeah,
that documentary. I've got to be honest, because it was just like an hour and a half, like a feature-length film of like 4 women telling their stories of various bad behaviors that happened with Russell Brand.
Yeah, and I also don't like how it's getting politicized as well, because the one thing that makes me sus of him. So let's start with him. One thing that makes me sus of him on his side is the fact that in his preemptive speech he did politicize it. And if I was in his position, even if I felt like I was being falsely accused, I don't think I would bring my platform and my truth seekers into it. I'd probably be like, none of this shit matters right now because I'm being accused of something criminal and I need to take a break from all of this to focus on that. I don't think I'd be trying to drag the public into it on my behalf in that capacity.
I can't talk about it here, but join me over on Locals.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I don't know, I thought there was something sketchy about that. But then at the same time, the way that it's sort of being politicized, like in the documentary, there was making clear allusions to him being this MAGA right-wing adjacent conspiracy yogi or whatever the fuck. Basically, in an attempt to lump anybody who has alternative or dissident views into the same category.
Yeah, definitely.
Which seems to be kind of what the media is attempting to do in a lot of ways. But that doesn't take away from the idea that Russell may have committed these crimes that he's being accused of. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he had some form of misconduct, considering his like history with women.
I mean, the
which
claims,
is like bin noon.
The claims are very significant.
Yeah.
So until they're like very well refuted with alibis or proof to the contrary,
I think the claim should be taken seriously, because I'm not somebody who's like a guilt. I believe that someone should be viewed as innocent until they're proven guilty.
One of them, like there was like they went to like a rape center afterwards.
Yeah, and
so
that evidence needs to come forward, and I'm sure that there's going to be more that comes out from this investigation as time unfolds.
Isn't that really easy? Isn't that like just like a little hair on the head?
Yeah, let's wait. It's only been a couple of days. Let's wait.
Does it have to be come for come?
Let's wait until like some more stuff unfolds, and as stuff unfolds,
because that's quite embarrassing, having to be asked to go somewhere to come into a cup to make sure that you didn't rape someone.
Well, whatever you have to do to disprove allegations is what you have to do in this case. If I was in a situation where that was happening to me, whatever it took to prove my innocence is precisely what I would do. And I think it's really irresponsible for him to drag the public into this and try and make it seem as if it's this like truth fighting thing. Like even like your fight against like the WEF can wait, mate. Clear your name and like fucking do what you got to do, or come clean about the truth. Either way.
Even just like watching the documentary, one of the things that kind of struck me in it again, which I think that happened when I've seen like other documentaries about Russell Brand and like his, career essentially, was that like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, he didn't even do stand-up before he was a presenter. He was just kind of like plucked out of nowhere and had an agent and was presenting TV shows and had a show on MTV and lost it all and then had to go to rehab. Like, the amount of different arcs that this guy's fucking career's had is pretty fucking crazy. And, he's had all this kind of like some public kind of, knowledge about his kind of antics and stuff. But of course there's going to be equal amount of like...
But the other side of this that bothers me is that they're trying to lump sort of anyone who's like a dissident or who questions the main narrative on things into the same basket of deplorables.
They are trying to shape the narrative.
Yeah, they're trying to shape the narrative in that sort of way, and that's kind of what rubs me the wrong way about it. And also what lends credence to the idea that this is like an attack against him and blah, 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 truth seekers versus the establishment. I don't think it's that cut and dry. And I think to frame a sexual assault case in that kind of culture war shit is kind of gross and horrible. And I really hate seeing the media spectacle that's currently surrounding it. It just makes me feel gross.
The one thing I would say as well is that as much as like I'm not really a fan of Russell Brand since he stopped being a comedian.
Yeah,
basically.
same here. To be honest, it's tedious as fuck. He just like shouts at people. He shouts at you, and I mean, and that's not to say that I don't appreciate like there's people who are sort of occupying a space where they are challenging like the mainstream narrative on certain things. But despite the fact they're challenging the mainstream narrative, they're not really challenging the mainstream incentive structure, which is like the manipulation of the attention economy, all of those different things that end up making you compromise morally anyway.
What I used to appreciate was that he actually covered like British politics and British news. Mm-hmm. And that kind of, in a lot of ways, set him apart from a lot of other commentators. Mm-hmm. But now, I don't know, since some sort of, you know, management or whatever agency has fucking done it, he has to talk about certain issues. And he doesn't talk about, like, specifically British stuff hardly ever, I think, anymore.
No, now he mostly talks about COVID, and he mostly talks about, you know, a lot of, like, similar stuff that we talk on this podcast, like, you know, the abuses of power, the elites, tech, blah, 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 blah. This is sort of his repertoire of like, you know, topics that he kind of circles through. Mm-hmm. But he's also kind of very much trying to portray himself as like a dissident. Not only a dissident, the dissident voice. And I mean, if I was facing sexual assault charges, I don't think I would be trying to bring my politics into it at all. And I think the fact that he did that was sort of in poor taste. But I also think it's really in poor taste at the same time that the media is using this as an opportunity to be like, oh, MAGA conspiracy theorists, all those people who who don't trust the mainstream narrative. Look at them. They support rapists. They support Jimmy Savile. They support Andrew Tate. They support this and that. Like, that's the part on that side that I think is really disgusting and morally reprehensible. Yeah, it's just gross. The media landscape has just become so unhinged. And this incident like really proves it. And I don't know, the reason I feel so grossed out about it as well is because I was almost supposed to work for Russell Brand as well. And like, I was supposed to have a contract and like work on his show, and it didn't end up happening. It didn't end up materializing. But as soon as this happened, I was kind of like a little bit like, okay, maybe it was like I would have been really stressed out and bewildered right now if I was embroiled in any of this shit or anywhere near it. But I don't even think it has to do with like him or anyone else per se. I think the media landscape is just like a toxic place, and there's like mudslinging, hidden agendas, hidden resentments, people who are just nasty, antisocial characters. Lots of people vying for power and position, lots of people in positions of power that like abuse them, you know? And that's not to say that everybody who gets quote unquote canceled in terms of like, you know, people who have you know, been shown to have definitely like abused their power don't deserve it. Like, there are people who definitely do deserve it and who, you know, use their positions to, you know, exercise their demons or whatever. But at the same time, it's just a disgusting thing to be asked to adjudicate on it. And especially in the realm of like culture war and media outlets that are sort of incentivized to use these things when they're politically like expedient. It's just, I don't know. It just reveals a lot of grossness.
Yeah, I don't know. It is, and it's an interesting time, isn't it? That it all comes out, I guess, as he's gaining a lot of prominence in this kind of like alternative internet
media space
and
yeah.
this kind of like you know, yeah, counter narrative kind of spiel.
But even the counter narrative, I'm skeptical of. Like, that's the thing. Like, the counter narrative, I'm skeptical of the mainstream narrative, but I'm also skeptical of a lot of the stuff that's like posing itself as counter narrative at the moment as well. And that was one thing that really bugged me, was the fact that if I was in that position, I wouldn't tie my politics, especially knowing how fragile the dissident space is, how difficult it is to talk against like the mainstream narrative, how easy it is for the waters to get muddied. If I was facing that kind of accusation, there's no way that I would tie my fucking politics into it like that, and like try and make people culpable and responsible for laundering my image. That's your responsibility. This is your thing to deal with. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's so fucking weird. And like, I don't know, the media landscape just seems to be getting more and more unhinged, like as time passes. And it's so hard to follow. It's just like crazy. Even the whole Lizzo thing was like a shock as well, because of how like beloved she was. And also how, you know, she represented like something that was almost beyond reproach, like body positivity. She was somebody who represented like loving yourself and all of these different things that people like sort of put her on this pedestal for. And I really did believe that she was beyond canceling.
Even she had like a bad ego about it.
Yeah.
It was there, like, being a bossy bitch and fucking rubbing people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because like, her ego was clearly way too inflated from all of the like way that she'd been built up onto a pedestal.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you're built up, there's a long way down.
Yeah.
It's a long way down from the top.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, pretty much.
And if you were like, you know, the only dancer or the only act that those women could go and dance for, you'd clearly risen pretty high. So yeah, that big ass better fucking take some fucking impact. And like,
well,
I don't know,
it's the fact that you're in that sort of position of power.
Tim Dillon definitely gave her some sound advice with sort of like saying, you just got to be hot Lizzo now. You got to stop, just, like, drop all this fat stuff. And
you got to do the thing
and reject all these people that are being mean to you.
And basically like get hot. And then you can come back and everyone will forgive you, basically.
Yeah, get hot. Like, fuck those bitches. I'm not like that anymore. Now I'm fucking hot Lizzo, and we're going to do this again. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what she can do. I mean, I think it is like a position of power thing, because like you said, no one wants to see like super overweight dancers, or it's just not something that you see very often. And she's like giving them the one opportunity to do this and to be this. And that is a tremendous amount of power to have over somebody.
Yeah.
Like, hey, no one else wants you, but I've
created a special,
unique position.
Funny how someone could abuse a position.
Yeah,
like
of course. And human nature is also like, you know, kind of...
It's almost like every story we've heard come out of Hollywood or the entertainment industry in the last few years pretty much is going to lead you to that conclusion.
Yeah.
So if you're in a way to sort of like going to create a position like that, there should be sort of like active
checks and balances,
checks, or sort of like maybe even just like positions like that should just not be created for the sake of that. For the
like
sake
even
of...
Russell Brand, his whole like spiritual yogi act or whatever.
Dude, that documentary was scouring. Like literally, it was literally like in fucking 2000 and whatever the fuck it was, like 9 or 8 when he was doing Big Brother. He was picking 3, you know, university students out of the crowd.
Yeah.
Every night.
Yeah.
To get their numbers or to get in contact with them afterwards or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like the American lady afterwards is talking about 5 women a day.
Yeah, but that was the thing, is that during that period,
I'm not saying he's fucking raping all those women.
But that's what I was gonna say. During that period, that was his persona, that he was like, he's this sort of rakish, mercurial figure, in the sense that he was known for being a seducer of women. And the more famous he got, the more prolific his sex life got.
What I'm saying is, if you've got the appetite to be fucking 5 women a day, like, I don't even know how you'd make time for that. Like, if you want to,
between coffee breaks,
unless you're really like fucking like using them like condoms, and it's just like fucking like, oh, we're gonna stop here for 10 minutes or like half an hour.
But so is what you're saying is that for somebody to have that amount of sexual partners, for a male to have that amount of sexual partners, he would have to have some kind of a objectified attitude towards women.
Yeah. Obviously, no? Or is that me being like, overly
is that you being sensitive and like long housed?
Not like, you know, not based enough.
Well, I agree with you. I think
I feel like if you're
because he says that level of promiscuity does like indicate like some kind of
you're gonna fuck a stranger.
dysfunction.
Like for me, that's gonna require if I'm really horny, at the minimum an hour to like have a drink or a smoke if they're fucking cool, and like break the ice. Like, not just straight fucking yep, oh you're here, so you know what you're here for. Great, take it all off. Yeah, let's fucking go. Boom, boom, boom. And then it's like, I've already seen everything. Like no, like that's just like that's mechanical.
Yeah,
that shows an even deeper pathology and like sickness in a lot of ways. Does it not?
Yeah.
So like I don't know. For me, like generously, I'm giving like an hour per lady. To like break the ice and like try and
sweet like that.
And try and make it happen.
Yeah.
But then that's like 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
5
That's
hours
what I mean. Dedicating a lot of time, but he was like a prolific seducer. Well, not well. Like he.
And how do you dispose of the woman afterwards?
Clearly, he had his methods of.
It's already just like I've got a call with Hollywood, or like some other bullshit, and then you're just off the hook.
I got a call with the producer,
and it's just
I'm gonna be in Forgetting Sarah Marshall 3, honey. So I need you out by 4.
I got P Diddy on the phone. Like it's just as simple as that.
Well, basically, after that, he sort of claimed to have calmed down and have sort of become a family man and started doing yoga and meditation and all this spiritual stuff. And he tried to sort of totally transform his image and, kind of as a man who had left behind Hollywood and pursued an intellectual life and a life of spiritual seeking and knowledge seeking and truth seeking and blah, 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 blah. Right. And I mean, it could be an element of like somebody who had a lot of darkness in their past, because he was very open about his like drug addiction and his sex addiction. Like I read his books and stuff when I was in my early 20s and blah 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 blah, and like he was very open about his struggles with that sort of thing. And he could very well be somebody who had a very dark past and sort of tried to compensate for it by taking on this persona of political activism and spiritual enlightenment. That's like almost an archetype at this point. It's like a pattern. It's something that we see constantly. And I think it should tell us something about people. Yeah. And power and fame and how it kind of works.
J George has got a good little comment here. He's just like anyone else, I love sex, but no one needs to bone that often. Go read a book or something, bro. Yeah. And that's exactly why I think he's so heavily into spirituality and like all of this stuff now, is to like try and like, take his mind off of that. I know maybe that's just like the way his mind works. And
well, that's what he's very open about it in his books, like with his addiction and stuff, how he's like incredibly libidinal and addicted, and he has the addictive personality. And when he was younger, he would binge eat because he was quite a chubby kid. And he would binge eat, and he was like addicted to food. And then it became drugs once he started taking psychedelics and smoking weed, and then it sort of trailed into harder stuff. And then once he got clean from drugs, because it was going to damage his career. And that's one other thing, is the fact that he had so many chances, because when he was Big Brother's Big Mouth, he was like on heroin and like fucking up. And like if you're a working class person trying to break into British television, especially if you're a drug addict, you don't get chances the way that he got chances. Like it just, and he had like a team of people who were sort of working around him to make his career get to the level that it. And also he broke into Hollywood, which is very rare for British comedians. Especially on his level, starting from like, being a host. Comedians, quote unquote, that were just funny people, funny personalities. Yeah. He wasn't like a stand-up guy or somebody who had a TV show like Ricky Gervais no, this was somebody who was like a host, who then rose to become a stand-up and then rose to become something else. So his career trajectory is also quite puzzling in that sense as well. Even my favorite bits of his like TV career being like Brand X, the chat show that he did in America for a while and stuff, that was all actually written by this other fucking guy. And Russell was just like
the actor, the Elvis Presley.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
which is nothing to take away from Elvis Presley or even Russell Brand and like the talents that they've got, but they are just like a good-looking, charismatic person that confront something.
Yeah.
But they don't actually they can't actually generate anything themselves, and I think that's also part of the guilt and part of the prolificism that he's had with YouTube and all this other stuff, because it's like, this is what I can generate, this is what I can do, because I feel like everybody's too afraid to take a chance on being creative.
Yeah.
And that's why even someone with all the doors open in entertainment and whatever else, instead of like, I don't know, put half the budget in of your own money for a TV show or something, you would like make an easy thing that you can manage on YouTube and do it that way, where you can just kind of give your opinions on politics and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's generative in like a certain sense, but it's also kind of like has its limits.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of fairly more free from ridicule than if you tried to do something creative.
But that's another thing that puzzles me.
No one wants to fail. That's the whole fucking point. Nobody wants to fucking fail.
But that's the thing that puzzles me about him too, is because he did actually genuinely walk away from the entertainment industry when he could have stayed in it in a much higher capacity. Like, he was at the height of his fame during the sort of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, married to Katy Perry years, and he could have very well become a Hollywood playboy. He was accepted into the inner circles. He was very much in there, and he just kind of up and left, and nobody knows why. And then all of a sudden he's like prancing around being political, telling people to vote for Labour, then saying, actually, no, don't vote for Labour. Then he disappears for a while and closes his YouTube channel down. Then he comes back again after a long hiatus, after having studied and like fucking taken baths with Wim Hof or whatever the fuck. Like, you know, he gets inducted into that whole Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan milieu of people, you know, and like, you know, it's crazy because now it's embroiled in this larger political struggle between quote unquote dissident independent media, if you can even really call it that, and the mainstream fucking conglomerate corporate backed media. And Russell's reputation is now sort of the thing that's being used to, you know, metastasize stigma to everyone who who goes against the mainstream narrative. Well, basically,
it's not just him, I guess, is it? It's like also Andrew Tate.
Yeah, Andrew Tate and like Elon Musk and all the sort of bad boys of the dissident.
I don't know if Elon Musk has like rape charges against him.
They said that he like looked up a stewardess's skirt or something like that. Like, all of them have some.
That's pretty tame as far as billionaire sins go. That's pretty tame. Like,
there's no human trafficking operations.
Yeah, that's pretty tame. So like, I'm willing to give him a pass for that. That's kind of like old school.
Yeah.
That's pretty old school. He's like trying to take after Warren Buffett or something.
a little casual butt pinching.
Yeah, exactly.
We have another comment.
After having studied and taken baths with Wim Hof, whatever, that about sums it up. Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, Russell, like, you know, he's an interesting figure, but like at the end of the day, like that's kind of most of my criticism of him. And then if it does turn out that he is like a full-on rapist, like that is.
But what about what? Know, yeah, well,
not.
We have
great.
To wait. I believe in, like, you know, things being adjudicated appropriately before people jumping to conclusions. And I mean, there have been a few times in culture right now where Kevin Spacey. That's one thing no one wanted to talk about. And then also Justin Roiland as well. Justin Roiland
They're
got
still
acquitted.
trying to come for him.
I thought he was acquitted. No, or whatever.
I saw an article that was either it was shared or it was either written.
He like wrote like some super villain tweet where he was like, y'all try to come for me, bitches, or whatever, but it was all fake news and lies.
Yeah, like but I don't know. There was like another article that came out recently of him saying that he was using the fact that he made Rick and Morty or whatever, the fact that he could do Rick and Morty voices to like groom children, essentially.
Oh my gosh.
So
what is going on?
There's a fresh wave coming for Justin Roiland. He definitely didn't sign the contract.
Too many scandals. Like, I need air. I need air.
He didn't sign the Illuminati contract. He refused it. And so this is the consequence.
That are going on.
This is the
It's
consequence.
just too much. It's too much for my brain to handle right now. Wait, so what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, so Justin Roiland, who else? Okay, Kevin Spacey. It came out that Kevin Spacey, he was acquitted at the trial.
In the British courts, he was acquitted of the
but nobody really
that he was doing at the Queen Vic, is it?
The Old Vic.
The Old Vic.
Yeah, the old famous
Vic.
Theater.
The Queen Vic is the pub in EastEnders.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah, like Kevin Spacey, it came out that he was, acquitted or whatever, and like no one really talked about that. People had a lot of things to say when he was guilty.
Yeah.
But then again, even then, there are still people who believe that despite the acquittal, he's still guilty and that he still deserves stigma and scrutiny.
I'm disappointed he didn't do another like in character bit, like declaring his victory or whatever from getting acquitted.
What?
He was all really quick to like get into Frank Underwood and be like, "Man, you think you've seen the but I'm actually going to be back sooner than you think because I'm an evil bastard. Look at me." Like he did a full fucking like monologue in character.
He did.
And then like where's the full monologue to come back, bro? You got to have a comeback monologue.
No, dude.
What kind of like fucking arc is that where you don't have a comeback monologue?
I don't know,
That's like anime 101.
You need a comeback monologue.
You can't have like, "Oh, I'll see you again one day," and then all of a sudden it was like, "Hey, you're back. Like you're not guilty. Everyone, like you can be back again." And he's just like, "Oh, well, I don't have anything to say." Like, what the fuck?
You got to have something to say. Well,
Yeah, well,
he didn't have anything to say.
He was a great actor. He's definitely like, kind of like, he did some dodgy fucking films in the period where I'm going to put that down to mental stress and like, like it must be a lot to go through what he went through. So I'm going to put down another mental stress.
It's just a cruel world. And that's the thing about these things. It reminds me of The Last Duel. I feel like we need to rewatch The Last Duel.
Oh, what a film.
What a great film. Because it's never about like the truth or getting down to the bottom of a situation. It's always about sensationalism and political tribalism. And that's what things get like, adjudicated based on. And that's terrifying. And that's and that just shows how cruel the world is and how fucked up human nature is. And like, I don't know, it freaks me out. And I think I also have like a unique trauma around this sort of cancel culture, because my first brush with canceling back in the very, very early days of Angie Speaks was like around something similar where someone had been accused. Someone who was like a patron had been accused of like doing some sexual assault shit. And it's not like I knew this person personally or whatever. They were a patron, because I didn't like immediately like get rid of them and cancel them and get embroiled in all the drama that was surrounding them. I was also guilty by association.
1984,
which is like the fucking bullshit that happens. Same thing with like someone like Richard Ayoade. Graham Linehan, as I was saying, he's the guy who did Father Ted, blah blah blah.
Legendary comedy TV writer, basically. Like if someone like him asked you to like write a nice thing for him in your book, it would be an honor.
Yeah,
like that's kind of the point of like. If
and Richard wrote a quote for his book, and then people what came after him were calling him transphobic. It's not as if Richard has endorsed Graham Linehan's views or anything. He's just like endorsing the work of a man who he respects and who he owes his career to.
It would be like if Chuck Lorre, like if the guy who wrote 2.5 Men and stuff, if he was writing a book, but he was also like against trans people or whatever, against the trans ideology or whatever you say it, anti woke. Then like you wouldn't be allowed to like write a quote for his book or whatever because of that.
Yeah, it's the whole guilt by association thing. Now, Richard Ayoade he's been a TERF all along. He's a secret transphobe bigot,
Well, who else?
He's awful.
Who else is on your list?
So many. Russian Murphy again. We talked about Russian Murphy.
Someone's talking about Russian Murphy. Oh yeah, we did talk about Russian Murphy in like the episode before.
We talked about Russian Murphy before.
Everyone knows that we love Russian Murphy.
Just so many.
We stand by Russian Murphy.
We stand Russian Murphy no matter what.
And it was Ninja Tune that's doing bad things and donating to a charity that she kind of like ethically disagrees with, I feel like that's real shitty on you, Ninja Tune, and that's big minus points in my heart, even though you're one of my favorite labels of all time.
Yeah.
Which is really gay.
The thing that annoys me is that I hate that establishment versus anti-establishment gets tied up in all of this bullshit. Because, like, that is something I take seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I do think there are real problems.
Well, morally, I think, like, that's to me what kind of, like, philosophy and everything else should be about, is kind of, like, about your morals and what you think is right and wrong. And if someone's gonna take a stance or say something in what they deemed was in the best interests of children, like, they're not coming at it from a vindictive angle or anything, and then you want to directly undermine them and do something that is essentially against the moral effort or ethical effort of that person was advocating for.
It's fucked up.
That is morally really a shit thing to do.
Yeah,
like, there's no which way you look about it. That lacks honor.
But that's the thing those are the two poles of culture right now. You have those sort of weaselly, authoritarian, like, woke assholes.
No, you will support it.
Yeah.
Because I will make you support it. Because I am the label, and I will put all of the money that your album makes into the very thing that you despise.
Yeah. It's really
like,
fucked
that's
up.
like a fucking Sauron level kind of like move.
On one side you have the sort of woke authoritarian freaks, and then on the other side you have people who are trying to take advantage of, like, people's dissident energy by being like, I'm the answer, support me, I have the truth, I'm helping you seek the truth, sort of thing. And it's, everything bad that happens to me is the Matrix coming after me type of thing. So there are these two, like, sort of poles of culture that are warring against each other right now, and it's just, like, really silly to watch. And, like,
the Matrix is this fucking silly narrative bullshit that they're always trying to spin for some reason or another. Like, I feel like all the distraction is just around, like, all of the stuff that everyone's pissed off about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you were talking about something the other day, this is totally unrelated, but you were talking about something the other day that people were, like, starting to get really pissed off about, all the HS2 stuff in England. And how people are suspecting that it's like COVID, and the Tories have essentially, like, pocketed shitloads of money.
Yeah.
Because it's super
You have to explain
budget.
to people what HS2 is.
So HS2 is like this massive train infrastructure project in the UK.
We're having Nigerian problems in the UK right now, basically, with corruption.
Even though we've got a train to Birmingham, we want to build another train to Birmingham that, like, saves 30 minutes, or not even that much. I think like 10 minutes. I think that's literally all it really saves in the long run. Is it's 10 minutes faster than the one that's already there. And it's cost so many, like, millions or billions already, and it's already over budget and over date and all of the stuff, like over when it's expected to be built and finished. And lots of people are suspecting that people, like, in power throughout the most of the building of this infrastructure project over the last 10 years, which has been the Tories, have essentially just, like, done the same thing that they did with COVID, which is kind of, like, I guess, a good thing in a way. It's made everyone kind of realize how people kind of end up kind of pocketing money or gaining favors or doing whatever. It's, like, not this direct, like, oh, you paid me and I got the budget for this thing and I literally put it in my pocket. It's like, no, it's not like that direct. It's, like, all through these weird things, like, oh, now I can hire this guy to do something which he isn't even qualified to do. He's just set up a company yesterday for our little scheme that we met at the pub and we chatted about. And now I've given him the contract to do this thing which he can't fucking deliver.
Yeah.
And then
What's your point though? Why are you bringing HS2 up?
Because, like, fucking, like, it's just, like, people are, it's distraction. It's distraction from shit like that. It's distraction from, like, people realizing, like, what, like, you know, demanding the things that they actually want to see changed in reality around them, and not just superficial bullshit around celebrity fucking culture. And
culture war shit as well, which is another form of crack people are addicted to. Like J. George just said, I want some sort of dialectical alternative to the woke / anti-woke culture war so bad. You and me both, brother. You and me fucking both.
How about we start making the who gives a shit gang and like fucking all just have a big old rave. Like, I feel like that's what we need to do.
Yeah, desperately.
Just put, like, who gives a shit gang.
Desperately. I don't know. And when I wish like we were in a time when things like this happened, people just cared about getting to the bottom of the truth.
Yeah.
Rather than like how it impacts their ideological team.
Oh, I'm already baked in with this team, and if I've like want to go and look at the truth and it unveils something bad that my team is fucking associated with, then that means I've done a bad thing politically, and so I can't really go through with that, and I need to mangle this information and actually figure out a way I can blame the other team.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, it's completely disingenuous. So we just need to, I think it's getting to the stage where, like, I don't know, it feels like especially this year.
The liberals are just as guilty of it. Like, don't get me wrong. They're doing the same thing by being like, he's a MAGA conspiracy theorist, blah, 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 blah. And all the people who like believe anything other than the official narrative, that's just like Russell Brand.
They're kooky wackos.
Yeah, and they're like rapey. they like support fucking literal Epstein fucking
like. I feel like in this year
fucking...
more than ever, the kind of narrative or whatever, the narrative TM has been like getting to this sort of like crescendo feeling.
Yeah, it's too much.
Know what I mean?
It's too much for me. I'm literally like,
where like
it makes
there's
me
this
feel
where
like ill.
there's the it's also it feels like it's leading up to some sort of like really kind of big conclusive event.
Well, like the major psyop, the prime psyop.
Yeah, and I don't know if that like could be a million things at the moment. That could be the fucking war in Russia. That could be fucking the next election, and
aliens,
like just
God knows what
it could be fucking aliens. It could be whatever the fuck. Like it feels like like
the grand psyop.
The pressure cooker is like cooking more than it ever has done.
Yeah,
it's like 1 minute to midnight, as they said. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just it really.
But even then, also I think disillusionment is also compounding itself as well, because I think that especially when it comes to all these celebrity cancellations, most of the people are people, again, who have people who really looked up to. And like part of the thing that's like replaced religion in secular times is celebrity worship. And the amount of like weight people place on celebrities, how people model their personalities after celebrities.
It's such a new phenomenon, though.
Yeah, it's a new phenomenon.
It's such a new phenomenon. Yeah. Like this is unfounded.
But
like,
now
this is not something that has ever happened in human history.
But it inspires the same nihilism as when like an idol falls or like a god dies in the same way. Like people who grew up watching Ashton Kutcher and that 70s show that didn't want to think about him potentially like stumbling in on his dead girlfriend or whatever, and then like not calling the police because he was worried about his career or some shit.
This is the big juicy Ashton Kutcher story. This is pretty fucking wild. So I hope you're all seated down whilst you're listening to this. But basically, fucking all of this crazy Scientology stuff has been popping off recently because another rapist, Danny Masterson, was found guilty. And like he got found guilty for life in prison. And so he's got a life in prison sentence for basically serial raping like 2 or 3 women. And I think there was probably even more, but like there was at least 3 women like actually in the trial and kind of like committing evidence and doing all sorts of stuff to go through it legally. And Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis both wrote glowing reviews to the judge of Danny Masterson's character and like who he is as a person, because obviously they all started out together. They all started their career together on that 70s show. Mila Kunis at the time was actually only 14. I thought she was actually older than that. The story I seem to remember was that she was not quite 18. That she was 17.
Was she 17? I thought she was like at least 18 or 19. The fact that she was younger than that really freaks me out.
You were supposed to be 18 to be on the show and to be cast, but she lied about her age, and I thought she'd only lied a little bit, like she was 17. But in the information that's come out recently, she was a lot younger than that. She was 14 when she was on that show. And Ashton started dating her. He was like 19, I think, at the time.
Wow. And
then like they stopped dating or whatever, and like for a bit, because they're obviously back together now. They stopped dating for a bit. He then went to go and meet this other girl for a date, and he went to her house, and she was there dead. And instead of calling the cops, Ashton rang Danny Masterson and his, at the time, girlfriend, who was one of these women who was in the trial. And so when Ashton wrote this review of Danny's character, and all of these allegations were going about him, that he had raped and done all this stuff, and that this woman in particular was basically saying, you know what Danny had done, and you know that he had done this. Like, I know that you what he's got on you and why you're holding back, and that this is essentially why. And this was like a piece of blackmail that Danny Masterson / Scientology had on Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis for a really long time, was this whole shady fucking story about him stumbling across his dead fucking girlfriend at the start of his career.
Yeah.
That they helped bury.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real Twilight of the Idols cultural moment in like this sort of Nietzschean sense. Like, people have sort of vested all this faith and hope into celebrities. Even someone like Russell Brand, to a lot of people, represented this man who had overcome addiction and become like a family man, and was now spiritually leading people and opening their eyes and blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, Twilight of the Idols it's about nihilism, and it's about, like, you know, the nihilism that comes once the idols have, like, you know, fallen. And I feel like people are experiencing this like grand disillusionment now. As much as it's like a distraction, I also think it's also it's also like demoralizing people in this really like interesting way. But hang on, we have some comments. Do you want to?
Marina says, sorry, burps. A friend said to me during lockdown once, it feels like, said to me during lockdown once, it feels,
Sorry.
Can't do everything, woman. I can't do everything.
Sorry, go on.
Okay, a friend said to me during lockdown once, it feels like the world's running faster and faster into the dark, but I don't know where we're going or why, and it feels like nobody really knows. And I've been thinking about it more and more over the past couple of years, and I think it's very true. Yeah, definitely. Like, I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment, and I'm not sure. You know what the head trip is as well, is that this is where I get all kind of Robert Anton Wilson about it, is that, like, I don't know if I feel like that because that is a kind of natural conclusion to feel, or a natural response to feel that way from the information presented, the lack of hope for the future, the kind of options politically presented, all of the current situation, etc. Or if actually you naturally feel that way because you're supposed to, and that a lot of the situation is fairly engineered, and you're supposed to be feeling that way, so that you're easily tethered and untethered from kind of anything, and you're easily led astray into whatever. Like, I've seen an awful lot of army recruitment advertisement
Oh, wow,
go up
wow,
in the UK,
wow.
in London, like, go up considerably more than I've ever seen it, probably. That I've lived in London in the 7 years that I've been here. In the last like 2 months, I've seen like more adverts on buses and on YouTube adverts and whatever the fuck than ever before. And I don't know if that's like I'm not the fucking age demographic, dude. I'm like fucking nearly 30. Like, you know, my physical peak, as they say, if you were looking at me on a FIFA transfer list, I'm not gonna be up there. I'm not gonna be up there on like a top pick, you know. So I don't think it's targeted advertising. I think that, like, you know, that people are kind of being led to feel this way for a particular reason, and that's kind of what makes me push against it more than anything. It's to kind of, because if you're led to feel that way, there's kind of probably something else that you are not feeling that is actually kind of the truth of the situation, or whatever. Or there's like something that a few different people I've heard use this phrase to describe a couple of different things. It's like a limited hangout. So, and that essentially means that we only know a portion of the pie, and that's kind of like why we feel exactly like this. But if you knew the pie, then you wouldn't feel like that. And so that is kind of, that all comes again around the nature of secrecy, the fabric of reality, all of these kinds of things that is wrapped up in all of the kind of, a lot of the UFO stuff and other things. But I hate to always bring stuff back to that. But yeah.
It all comes
I'm
back
not
to
trying
UFOs.
to. I'm not trying
it
to.
It always comes back to the UFOs.
I'm not trying to.
It's
but
just
that's,
like reality's unraveling in front of our very eyes.
No, but that's
guys.
no, but that's kind of my point. Is that like even that the suspicion that people have around that, around why that's coming around now.
Yeah.
Like, is that a distraction from what is the real thing and what is the real thing?
Yeah.
And so there's always this kind of paranoia about whatever information is getting told at the moment.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how, and I think everybody's in this state now of like whatever information they might receive, which doesn't maybe go in whatever fucking direction they might like it to go in.
Yeah, they just
very
reject
quickly
it.
to just go, oh well, that's just sort of like something that's probably being engineered by something to make me feel
and
like
that's
a certain kind of way.
Do you think that Russell is cynically manipulating that by being like, oh guys, this is a conspiracy against me, because he knows that we're now in this era
at this
of time
moment
and
in
blah,
time,
blah, 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 blah.
At this moment in time, without fucking video evidence or something really crude, only Russell and those women fucking know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And that's kind of the whole fucking point
is that
about
we're in this
Me
weird,
Too.
Yeah.
And it's even the same situation with the UFO shit. Is literally like what some people have said versus what some other people have said. And you're like, okay, well, we need more than that to go on,
mate.
to actually
make
like
our
feel
minds
like
up about this.
None
of this matters.
You could have a rational kind of position
and then
like
you said, the stuff that does matters, like HS2, this like massive government embezzlement, fucking corruption,
alleged government embezzlement, whatever the fuck. Because there's not even been a big fucking
investigation.
There's been several stories about like how bad HS2 is ripping through like ancient woodlands and like all of these kinds of different things. But it's not gone into actually the financials of HS2
but in terms
and
of
tracked
the things
a
that
lot of that and
materially
like
affect
seen
people,
how it's cost that much.
In terms of the things
insane.
that actually materially affect people, like that stuff is obviously glossed over and overlooked in favor of sensationalism and tribalism. And that seems to be more and more of the media environment right now. And the media in general is toxic. And that's why it attracts toxic characters, in my opinion.
Crack for that. You're not crack for that. It's knack for that. No, when I said bury the story, I meant bury the story, not the dead girl that Ashton Kutcher found. In the house. It's just such a wild fucking thing to say out loud.
But yeah, I think the reason why the media attracts pernicious characters, like even me, I've been orbiting it for a while, writing for certain publications. But like I said, I was going to work on Russell Brand's show. That was going to be a prospect last year that didn't come to fruition. And I can say that in my time having sort of traversed these circles, it does attract pernicious characters. And the reason it attracts pernicious characters is because it fucking works towards pernicious ends. Division, sensationalism, attention seeking, all of those things.
Well, it's even it's even just to talk a little bit about a royal cancelling that's getting a little bit more attention recently. Prince Andrew's back in the fucking news again. Well, for valid reason as well.
Yeah.
Was that someone was essentially going to write I think this would have probably been the first biography about Prince Andrew done about him since all of the Jeffrey Epstein stuff and his settled court case with Virginia Giuffre and everything else, right?
Yeah.
And so he put in information request on royal correspondence or something or other around an official position he had for the government around international trade relationships or, some other kind of fucking a no-show job, like as the mob would say, like a fucking no-show job, like your name is on the thing. Maybe you go on a trip to New York and you have a nice dinner, but you're not doing anything. You're on the books, and you're making the fucking money. That's a taxpayer paid job, by the way.
Wow.
So that was enough as of a scandal as it is, but like, you know, how much work he even did. But then not only that, this guy's kind of looking into it because I think he was in New York around the time when he was actually in New York for something to do with this organization when he met Jeffrey Epstein after he came out of prison the first time in 2011.
11, yeah.
And that's when he then resigned from this position and everything else. So then this journalist went to go and write this biography, long story short, sorry, rambling, and requested information. And they said that that information is blocked for another 63 years or something like this. So it's only going to be available. And Andrew is already 62 or 60. I think it was, I can't remember if they said it's going to be blocked for 65 years and he's 63 years old, or if they said it's going to be blocked for 63 and he's 65 years old.
Yeah.
One of those ones. Fucking Google it.
And this is something notorious again in the British establishment, is them covering up. And that's also why the Russell Brand story is also so, and the Dispatches expose is also so explosive, because, you know, the institutions that he was part of, like the BBC, XXY, have a history of covering for like fucking sexual predators.
British
institutions tend to be quite molesty.
British TV presenters that had a history of raping, you know.
And that's why it's so explosive, and why it's like, dude, like...
There's probably 5 that come to your mind.
Yeah,
like, without even thinking about Russell Brand. So
like,
there's definitely like a problem around that topic in sort of British culture,
and just even the affiliation alone as a comedian who's been in it's just like, it's explosive. They
did manage to edit a lot of his like little stand-up bits around the stories very well to make him seem very seedy. But
then again, you never know. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's like I said, we'll never know. And the fact that it's done in this sensationalist, like, fucking fashion, and they were acting like rappers who were going to drop a track. Like, this Saturday, Dispatches. And he's like there doing his diss track preemptively before. It's just like really silly and weird.
If only it was creative as that. I wish it was creative as that. Like, I feel like it's such a cop out to kind of do something like just do that, and that's why I'd like the idea, or, you know, I'm probably never ever gonna get to go there, but like I like the idea that Joe Rogan opened up that comedy club
in Austin.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Why? What about it?
Because like it's not just doing a podcast and like commenting and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like trying to do something.
Yeah.
Like he is, and from all accounts that I've heard, is tried to make like the perfect place to kind of nurture comedy talent. Like every show, it's like phones locked in bags. It's fucking like, you know, it's a good environment where no one feels like they're gonna have to suffer with any of this shit and get cancelled. And maybe, you know, there's a good kind of cancelling and a bad kind of cancelling. Maybe there's kind of even a conversation there where, like, if someone has proven to have done really like heinous like acts, and if you're a serial rapist like Danny Masterson, or like fucking, if all of these accounts were actually true as well, like Russell Brand, he would be charged with life in prison, like Danny Masterson was, and that's the value of his sins that he's done. And so it's not to say that there's that like canceling is always kind of like bad and it's like woke to cancel people.
Well, it's not even canceling. It's like, if somebody is a criminal, then they should be treated like a criminal.
Exactly.
And we should, as a society, have the due processes to find out what's true.
Your attitude.
And then find out how people should be treated based on that. Yeah, instead, sensationalism and bullshit like rules the day, which is what pisses me off. The fact of the matter is, like, the reason why we put people in front of a jury of 8 men, and we make it very difficult to take away someone's freedom.
There's always 2
Well, let me finish. We make it very difficult to take away someone's freedom without having a process, is because we value freedom as a society. Otherwise, we would have some barbaric process that just kind of made people guilty without having to really prove beyond a reasonable doubt than they are. And that's the thing.
There's always 2 courts, though. And
there's
even
the court
like, even
yeah,
like
that, and then there's the court of
Kevin
public
Spacey, right?
Yeah.
Like, Kevin Spacey isn't a charismatic guy, And so people still think he's a rapist because he looks the way he looks, and he did that creepy Frank Underwood character when he was getting accused about everything.
Public opinion is a brutal court,
so
and it's scary.
Johnny Depp Johnny Depp was pretty much all but cleared in all of the fucking bullshit that went on between him and Amber Heard. Yet his total public opinion, I don't know if it's completely fully shifted as like, you know, back as when he was fucking Pirates of the Caribbean, top of the world Johnny boy. Like it's different time now. Yeah. And so there's always two courts, no matter what. Like there's always going to be, and that's just human nature. We live in a fucking society, as Arthur Fleck.
We live in a society.
We live in a fucking society.
In true Arthur Fleck fashion.
As
look at your outfit right now as well.
What, you think this is a pretty Sigma outfit?
Yeah, I think it's the most Sigma outfit you've worn yet.
Feminists still hate Depp. There you go. I mean, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't think that it's like, if he was proven to not do anything bad and like beat women or rape them or murder someone, you know, like, who is it? Ferris Bueller. That's why people don't like Ferris Bueller, man. Because he fucking killed that person in Ireland. Matthew Broderick. Broderick, he never won public opinion back over because he fucking killed that person in Ireland and he didn't take responsibility for it.
Oh my goodness.
He was drunk driving and he fucking killed someone.
Oh my gosh.
And just skipped back to America.
Oh my gosh.
And like, people, I feel like that's why he's not in many films.
Oh my gosh.
He's a great actor, but like he can't be in that many films because people don't want to see that much Matthew Broderick.
Or even like Tiffany Haddish.
Every time they see him, it makes them bring up the fact that he fucking killed someone in like 1980, whatever the fuck.
Even Tiffany Haddish as well. Remember Tiffany Haddish?
Yeah.
She
overrated.
Yeah, like, really overrated. She's annoying.
She was okay
really
in
annoying.
That one. She was okay in that one Eric Andre film. Like, she suited the bit in that Eric Andre film.
I don't know. I just find her really annoying and obnoxious.
I haven't seen any stand up of hers or any.
She's just like obnoxious and like, I don't know.
She's funny.
No,
like,
but she got cancelled for similar allegations. Came out. She did some weird sketch with like kids that was like really inappropriate or something. But then this week at the VMAs, she was there. She kind of just like invited herself there.
Chill. And
like was yelling at Shakira from across the room. And trying to get like attention or whatever.
It's pretty based.
And it's like, no, I'm not cancelled. I'm still here, guys.
I'm still here, bitch.
And that's like a very her thing to do, I think, is to just like show up anyway and like, you know.
Fuck it, why not, dude? Who's gonna stop you?
I don't know, man. I think obviously there are lots of people who are like, you know, unfairly targeted, and that's why it pisses me off when people who, you know, try to use this sort of dissident political posture as a way of like avoiding accountability.
Whoa.
Because there are people who are legitimately unfairly targeted for, you know, sticking up for their beliefs.
J. George, you need to produce the podcast, bro. You need to be giving us topics. Didn't Haddish bite Beyonce once?
What?
How? Keep talking. I'm gonna find this. We have to find this.
I don't think that's true.
That should be easy to find. I think
the Illuminati would have like sacrificed her if she did that.
Haddish bites. Tiffany Haddish bites Beyonce. It comes up in the Google auto fucking suggestions. What? Who the hell bit Beyonce in the face? Demanded Kristen Corey at Vice. In June, we finally learned the answer in a new interview with Hollywood Reporter. Haddish heavily implied that Beyonce biter was none other than Sanaa Lathan. Well, it's not Tiffany Haddish then.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was like a bit that she did, like who bit Beyonce?
What?
I don't know. It's all gotten lost in the weeds now.
Yeah, it's all gotten lost in the weeds.
It's all become...
But how isn't that just so representative of how everything has become? It's just like a Russian doll of like mental illness. Just like layers and layers of mental illness. That's just like the culture now.
Well,
and I'm not sure how to deal with it.
I mean, it's just like, that's what frustrates me, I guess, a little bit about, and not frustrates me in a way because a lot of the evidence that I guess that they, well, it wasn't really evidence. It was just like these women telling their stories and that's the thing, isn't
Well, there
it?
was
It's sort of
some
like,
evidence
because
that
it's
was
sort of-
produced with the Russell Brand thing. There were text
There was
messages
some like text messages with one
that
of them.
implied that, you know, something terrible happened.
There was like
Like
that.
she says no means no in one of them, and he's just like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's a weird response. to
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, it is.
what do you mean? Sorry. Like, why would you even be trying to talk to that woman again after you did that? Like, especially after the description of what she said. Like, it's just literally, or maybe that's all just like part of the psyop. Who the fuck knows? That is like literally the fun of now, isn't it? And I guess like that's kind of what post-COVID me has been a little bit about.
What?
It's just sort of like, you know, no one knows anything.
Yeah.
The reality is like, who knows? So just like focus on at the moment.
Yeah. As much as you can.
Focus on at the moment as much as you can, because like honestly, like who the fuck knows how long this fucking hamster wheel is going to keep running?
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely ridiculous, bro. Like even like despite all of the other shit, just the very basis of like all of like everyone's inflation shit and all of this shit is going up. Like economy is all fucked all around the world. Like it's all because it's all based upon a fucking like completely unsustainable model. You know what I mean? Like how long does all of this shit just like keep going on before like it all just fucking
Not
goes
even
up
just
in
that,
air?
the global order is also shifting too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, with the whole BRICS situation and the fact that like even with the G20, like America was there like a fucking beggar. And like, well, I wouldn't say like a beggar because America is still the hegemon, but it's clear that they don't get to call the shots in the way that they used to anymore. And that there are new
I think
forms of power that
all
are
it takes is
coalescing.
for BRICS to get big enough to
Yeah.
then just go to Saudi Arabia and be like, yo,
Yeah.
sell your fucking barrels in one, bro.
Yeah.
If you do that, we'll
Like
be
global
best
global
fucking
power
buds.
is shifting, all sorts of shit is shifting. There's like all this real shit going on. And in the West, like people are canceling celebrities and comedians and fucking
The dog breeds you shouldn't get.
specifically yeah, the dog breeds you shouldn't get. The bullies. Like literally global
It's like,
shit global
literally,
power
like,
is shifting all this stuff.
there could be like a fucking breakaway civilization that is like dealing with a different level of physics and science as you know it. Or we could talk about what dog breeds you shouldn't get.
It's just crazy. And also comedians specifically, the canceling of comedians. And as much as I sort of like fell out with that whole like lefty milieu thing, that was one good observation that Ben Burgess, remember him? That was one good observation that he made in his book, Canceling Comedians, because it does seem to be comedians like the Joe Rogans and the fucking Russell Brands and stuff that the culture is focusing in on currently as like, you know,
The only like I will say this as
culture
well.
war,
the,
red
the
meat.
only real comedian the only two real comedians they cancelled was Dave Chappelle, and that fucked him up creatively.
Yeah,
and
it
then
did fuck him up
fucked up
creatively.
all the other fucking specials he had contracted with Netflix. That's why the first one was good, and then he all got tripped up over who he's offending and who he's not offending with
Yeah.
what fucking jokes he's saying, and his whole shit became TED Talks.
Yeah.
And Shane Gillis got his like debut gig as an SNL cast member, and then they went back through a bunch of podcasts he did, and he used Chinky as a derogative or whatever the fuck term in a podcast from fucking years ago. And so they straight up cancelled him before he even had his first appearance on SNL. He then went on to become like a very successful alternative kind of comedian on the internet. Shane and Gillis and Keeves, the sketch show. That's him. So
yeah, but it fucks them up creatively, and
it didn't fuck him up creatively. He went off and he's fucking done great ever since.
Yeah.
That was like the thing he almost needed to like actually fully fucking propel and be successful in many ways.
Very true.
So
for some people, it doesn't fuck them up, and that's one observation that I made last week.
But Joe
if I
Rogan,
remember,
not really a comedian. It's more of like an interviewer,
Yeah.
more of a personality.
if I
like-
remember correctly, the observation that I made last week was that the only positive thing about cancel culture is that it's a good testing ground for the soul. Like facing opposition and like resisting conformity inevitably strengthens your character, and like it also reveals our shadow in a way, our collective shadow as well. And I think that that's like the one positive aspect of cancel culture is there are some people who come through it better on the other side and stronger, like Shane Gillis, like you said. They don't let it hold them back, and in fact it puts them in touch with what really makes them special, what differentiates them from other people. Because normally when you have something that really differentiates you, it will sort of like cause ripples in the collective unconscious.
So I'm waiting for Kevin Spacey to come back with Usual Suspects 2 and just like smash it.
Sometimes you will face opposition and it will ruffle people the wrong way. You know, the collective unconscious wants to like homogenize everything and make everything like the same or whatever. But we all have things that differentiate us. And like, if you get in touch with that, sometimes you have to face opposition. And these things strengthen your character and make you into a better person. And I think that, yeah, if there are some people who come through it and they get more in touch with themselves, and it really launches them and they do great and they grow and evolve and stuff. But there are some people who it really corrupts their soul. And I think those people are the ones who can't handle just being alone.
It's also just half-assed.
I think it's also the ones who can't handle insecurity, and they can't handle not having validation. So like, I think that they sell their souls or they make stupid deals with corporations and blah, 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 these entities, because the idea of having to stand by themselves and to stand for what they believe in without anyone supporting them terrifies them so much.
But I think this is kind of what separates some of the old class of like celebrities from the new class of celebrities. So like, you know, people like Russell Brand will commentate all fucking day about what the corruption is or what fucking bullshit is. He won't actually like put his hat in the ring or do anything like to contribute in a meaningful way like that, right?
Well, he's done like lots of community projects
and fucking
he's done community projects and things like that.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, fucking like governor of California.
You saying Russell Brand should have run for Labor?
Ronald Reagan, dude.
Labor government.
He was fucking president of America, dude. You know what I mean?
You're saying
like,
Russell Brand should have run
these
for
are guys
office.
that weren't just like talking the talk and like had a little show. These were guys that like felt something about the fucking country they lived in and then actually fucking went to go and try and do something about it.
Oh my gosh.
And I feel like there should be more respect for like actually committing to do something. Living fucking what does Walden say? I'm trying to remember. Living decisively or whatever the fuck it is. Actually fucking committing to do something rather than just like being on the side. There was like a clip that went viral recently of like two internet fucking celebrities going at it with Oliver Tree, if you know who that is.
No.
It's like another meme musician type guy. And he went on Ethan's show on Hate Truth podcast and he ripped Ethan to shreds and was like, oh, because like you used to actually like, you know, when was the last piece of content you made that was like culturally relevant? Vape Nation. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, that's why, man, like I used to fucking respect you because you used to actually like contribute to this weird like internet culture thing that was going on. And now you just sit there and fucking commentate and fucking rip people apart. And it's fucking pathetic. At least I'm still trying to actually do something. And as much as I don't find Oliver Tree funny and I think his music is fucking garbage, like I totally respect that philosophy, and at least he is literally sticking by his guns.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Russell kind of gave up on comedy to pursue.
To be a TED talker and fucking like give opinions, and like I'm saying this on a fucking podcast and I'm giving my fucking opinion, but like my music's not the fucking thing, but at least I fucking do that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and I'm writing a book, so
like I don't. Like, this isn't the penultimate thing that I'm like trying to put into the world. It's just like another little thing that I do on the side because it's fun.
Because it's fun.
Like it's you know, and commentating. I feel like if that's your entire thing, that's where it becomes a problem.
A real
and there's
problem.
A whole discourse of this on YouTube around like, you know, React streamers and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Of like, you know, these people essentially make bunny hopping content which will get picked in the algorithm over original content because it's longer and has more engagement, because they are
It's kind of the
saying
reason why-
spicy takes,
yeah.
whatever the fuck it is about the video, all the way
It's
in
the reason
between.
why I struggle to make video essays sometimes, because I'm not following the algorithm. I'm talking about things that I want to talk about, topics that I find specifically interesting or whatever. And like, that's just not like, it's just not incentivized at all. It's not really like a business model, quote unquote. And like, yeah, you can't make it your whole thing. You have to have something else that you're putting into the world, some other thing that you're creating outside of just commentating on the monster of the week.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you make music, whatever. I have a book that I'm writing, like having some kind of thing that and it makes me sad because these are people who historically did do that. Like, they were comedians. They were people who contributed to the culture, like you said, in interesting ways.
Exactly.
And now all they do is like ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble and try to sell. Like, I remember we watched a clip of Russell Brand that I commentated on a couple of weeks ago, and he was like selling gold or some shit.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like how
did it get there? What the fuck? What the fuck was going on there?
I saw Naomi
What?
Campbell like selling a fucking like internet fucking fashion brand, and I saw Russell Brand selling gold. How the mighty have fallen, man. Like,
What's going on?
it's pretty crazy.
What's going on?
Smitumi, I still don't know where I can hear Jake's music. You can hear it on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. I have not really done the whole streaming malarkey with all of my kind of ambient IDM stuff, and that's kind of what I've been doing mostly for the last like 6 years or so. But you can find me on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. You go to ELM Collective Records or Dr. Doctor. If you search that in either of those platforms, you'll find all my stuff. And I have some new stuff that I'm cooking up at the moment that when it is done, it will all be done like properly and above board and like on Spotify and like on all the things. And you know, even have some like fucking sexy Dolby Atmos mixes and stuff for it maybe. But until then, like, you have to just find me being fucking DIY on the internet like a little pirate and being on Bandcamp.
What other comments do we have? I can't see from here.
Marina, Russell Brand should have done something about HS2, lol. Yeah, I mean, he should have done something about a lot of like kind of major kind of political things in the UK, but he kind of backed away after he like tried to vouch for Labour at the very last minute of like an election year, like over I think nearly 10 years ago. And then ever since never really fucking did anything else. Like, he did some local things, as Angie said, about like certain housing projects in London that were going to be taken over.
He also had his
developed.
True's Cafe, where he was like employing ex-drug addicts. Because I remember he had his book that came out where he discussed his battle with drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had his YouTube channel where he did the Trues. And then he made the True's Cafe in Hackney or somewhere, like it was either Hackney or somewhere Old Street, somewhere in East London. And he was employing people who were ex-drug addicts in this cafe, and the proceeds were going towards charitable causes or something along those lines. But then something happened and it shut down, and he sort of disappeared for a while. But it's this weird archetype.
Something happened.
It's this weird archetype in the British press
Something happened, eh?
them taking a working class man from, because Russell's from Essex, in the same way that like someone like Jimmy Savile was from
maybe
a parochial.
Maybe he fucked a cake or even worse in the cafe.
Shush you.
His randy little habits couldn't be contained even within his little True News cafe.
Shush you.
He's fighting the good fight with his penis.
Oh my gosh, be quiet. Well, basically, yeah, it's sort of the thing, which is why it's like a very big thing that Russell's sort of being paralleled by the British press to a figure like Jimmy Savile, considering again he worked for the BBC. The BBC notoriously covers for criminals of the sexual variety. He also is a working class guy from Essex. Jimmy Savile was also a working class guy from somewhere in the north, I don't know where, but that was like, he was sort of a working class guy that was sort of plucked out of obscurity from radio fame into the British establishment and the media establishment. Same thing with Russell. He had this sort of journey upward that was similar. And yeah,
Russell feels a little bit more plucked and planted than Ricky Gervais, if I'm honest.
Ricky Gervais seemed like he worked his way up as a writer, a television writer in the like sort of traditional way.
He's actually funny.
Yeah.
And he like was actually,
Russell's funny too, but like he's just sort of, he's like an outrageous charismatic persona. And he was a presenter who then became a comedian in that sort of way, which is what
it's different. Like even watching a lot of his, because a lot of the clips that they took were from his early. This is the last bit, and then we'll sign off.
We'll sign off because it's getting late.
Like even the bits that they took from that documentary. Sorry to keep going on about this Russell Brand thing, but like it kind of made me start thinking about his early sets and stuff. And they were sort of commenting on his character and about like how narcissistic he is. And then you sort of like looking at those clips of those early sets, like, oh yeah, I like to do this, I like to do that. And you're like, oh yeah, like that's the whole bit. Like the whole bit is him talking about himself. It's not like there is an insight or there is an observation or anything. It is just like, I live this bombastic, crazy life because I'm already a celebrity. So I can already talk about all of this crazy shenanigans and sex and stuff that I get up to because of the position I'm in, versus actually having to be funny and write anything or do it. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, yeah, I don't know. It's made me question my appreciation for him as a comedian in general, if I'm completely honest. Because I don't know another comedian that I've liked where I could look back and then really pick apart their sets like that and go, oh wow, that's actually just not funny. Like, like I'm trying to think of a stand-up comedian that I really like. Like even David Cross, who I feel like has fallen off in recent years. His early stand-up, I'm not gonna fucking say that that's not funny. Yeah, like in the George Bush era and shit. Like holy fuck, David Cross was one of the best stand-ups going. Like so fucking funny. But he's fallen off recently, and I'm not going to stand in anything he fucking does at the moment. Yeah. But I couldn't pick apart his early stuff. Yeah. But there's like, he's one of those people where actually, if I go back, I'm like, oh, actually, I don't. Yeah, that was kind of garbage and not great. Not great. Not great. Not great. But anyway, guys, we gotta go. But it was wonderful chatting with you this evening. We'll be back next week with more excavations into the dark heart of our strange culture. Stay hopeful, fight the nihilism, and we will catch you next week. Goodbye. Bye.